that. It's either number 2 or 3 of looking at John's games. I think we did one of the candidates, didn't we? And then this is the second one where we've looked through your games.
Mm.
How's it going so far?
Yeah, I'm not playing as much as I should probably, but this was a nice slow correspondence game, so I think it reflects on me okay-ish. I didn't collapse to a player who's a lot better than me, so be interesting to see what you thought of it.
Yeah, so what the format is basically we're gonna go through the game, and at certain points, I'm pretty much going to be giving John a little lesson based on the game itself and asking him what he thought. And at other points, John is going to be definitely asking me lots of toddler questions, going why, which is absolutely something that you should do. So we're going to have a go at this. So what did we have, John? We had a Sicilian, didn't we?
Sicilian,
so,
yeah.
Let's see how we get.
I did have a basic question in the beginning, at the beginning of the Sicilian. So obviously, I just sort of follow the book moves through, but I always wonder why why White plays knight to c3.
F3, or why?
No,
White plays the other
c3.
one?
Yeah. No, wait. It's the other way around, isn't it? It's the knight to f. Yeah, you're right. The knight to f3.
Yeah. Knight c3 is also very.
No. That's this. Okay, so you can do that one first. I just wondered in the standard line you play knight f3 to then protect the pawn that you push. Then the pawn swap, and you take with the knight, and then you bring the other knight out immediately. Whereas, for example, the Najdorf is designed so that you can't bring the bishop down to b5.
So this is the Najdorf a6. Yeah. So
which stops the bishop from coming down and attacking the king, and then swapping off one of your pieces, right? Generally.
Yeah.
Why not? Why can you not move the bishop before the second knight? Why is it sort of just customary that you bring that knight onto c3 before you do the bishop move, for example?
Okay, so bishop b5. I mean, the function of knight c3 is that it defends the pawn. The idea is that after bishop b7, so one of the worst pieces that black is going to have is this bishop, because the pawn is on a light square and looks at some squares that look at a square, I suppose, that the black bishop would like to potentially go to. And if bishop b5 happens immediately here, I think black can just play bishop d7, and then they've already pretty much solved the issues that you get with this guy. And if there's a swap, then, well, I don't know, take with the knight, then yeah, that issue is gone forever. And if
then you're going to bring your knight out anyway, presumably, to protect
if the bishop just meekly retreats, because then they've got to defend this pawn, otherwise it just gets snapped. Then white has spent 2 moves playing this.
Yeah,
has already lost all of their advantage.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the function of knight c3 is to defend the pawn. Given you mentioned knight c3, let's have a quick look at it. The idea here is that white is retaining the possibility to play f4 in one move without that knight being in the way on f3. And the knight coming out here, just everything is just looking at the d5 square. Because if black can get d5 in the Sicilian, they tend to be doing quite well, essentially. So yes, that is one thing. So we got to here, but you didn't play the Najdorf, you played the Dragon, because we are brave players or something.
Because I thought my opponent expected me to play the Najdorf, so I thought I'd just do something a bit different. And I played the Dragon in a couple of Blitz games. So
yeah, so I started playing it a little bit as well. I think I'm going to move to the sort of Scheveningen style things with e6 instead quite soon. Because what tends to happen in the Dragon is if you don't manage to get that knight sacrifice the knight for the rook for a knight on c3, it tends to come to d5, whereas e6 would at least appear to stop all of that.
If you play the Chevening, though, you then invite
g4.
G4, yeah.
Yeah, so G4 is it's been fun. We've had some fun games, and they can sort of transpose into the same kind of thing where black just goes absolutely mad on the queen side, white goes mad on the king side,
right?
And you go from there.
So how do you prevent that pawn from attacking your knight, or do you just let it attack and then?
Well, here you play e5.
Okay, right.
The idea being that you've now got two pieces looking at it. The main line goes here, 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 and like f5, and it's all pretty fruity for move 9. Black tends to go h5 here. Things happen. Lots happens. So yeah. So, but the dragon's very very principled. Going to load the bishop up and just play all the way down here for as long as we can. Okay.
So he immediately just went after my bishop.
Yeah, this is all. So this is the Yugoslav attack, and yeah, I mean you've played sort of theoretical line here, so you should be pleased with knight g4. That's the move, and then bishop g5 is also the move. Now h6 is the. I played this as you know. I played a simultaneous exhibition against some kids last Wednesday, and we had exactly this line where I played h6, but then it got into all sorts of trouble. I think they played bishop here, and then I just got e5. The idea of the dragon is that these pieces should ensure that you get decent dark square control all around, really. But yeah, white needs to be careful of what they do with that. So the only move here is bishop h4, and then black just gets on with it. But yeah, just going after the bishop straight away, knight g4, bishop g5. Yeah, but you can. The point is that you can play h6 to kick this bishop off this diagonal, so that you don't have any problems later on. So it has to go to h4. But you play knight c6 immediately, which is also fine. I think h6 is just a bit more.
Yeah.
A bit more solid for later, and also what you want when you're defending against potential pawn storms is you ideally want a flat pawn structure. And let me try and explain this. Let's see if we might get it later anyway, I think, actually. So I'll go back to that. So you want a flat pawn structure when things are coming at you for reasons that I will explain. So knight f3, bishop d7, h3, and yeah, now h6 is definitely playable. Interesting. So everything came off. Okay, so we're not going to get what I was saying. Let's go back. So the reason why you want a flat pawn structure, I'm just going to draw on the board. If you imagine pawns here and here, so on g4 and h5, looking at the pawn on g6, this pawn could then come up. So you've got then pawns on these 4 squares, and everything's blocked. Right? Likewise, if white went the other way, you could then try and attack this pawn. Then you can just move this guy up, and then we get pawns like this. So everything closes, and it's impossible for white to create an open line, an open file. So that's the idea here. That yeah, flat pawn structures lend themselves better to than say wherever we had just now, where if white got pawns to here and here, then there's no way for you to stop it because this pawn would have no support coming from h6, and the queen would just welly it off. So that's something to bear in mind.
Which is what happens eventually.
Right, so everything came off down the h file, which is interesting. I haven't seen this line too many times. And then queen takes, which is a bad move. Why might queen takes g5 not be a good move, John? What is white allowed? What job was that queen doing on d2?
Uh, defending the knight.
Yeah, absolutely. Defending the entire queen side. So
I should have just immediately taken with the bishop.
yeah, the idea being here is that white definitely can't castle kingside anymore because that rook has completely disappeared. I know that this bishop appears to be doing some good jobs defending these squares, but the point is that the bishop itself is unprotected, so it's going to be quite loose fairly soon, you think. You're also doing it with check, so they have to do this. And then I think we can just play something like queen b6 and just start zoning in on the dark squares here, and then we can just castle next move. Pretty much whatever they play. And white has been left with these ugly pawns.
Yeah.
Lots of doubled pawns. These two are particularly ugly. This structure actually is actually quite good because you've got a decent amount of control of f5, and it's opened up a file. Whereas these two are particularly ugly because they're on an open file for black. So it's very easy for a rook or a queen to come in and attack these guys, and they'd have no decent means of support. Okay, your opponent has just logged into Twitch to watch this stream. And he's commenting that knight f3 was wretched, which is this, I suppose. Yes, it wasn't particularly great either. I skimmed over that because I thought there was more important things to talk about. But yeah, absolutely. There's no need here to play the knight to a square where it's not really needed. What white's attention should have really been on the queen side here. Yeah, because this knight is never going to be helping out over here anyway after like knight f3. Yeah, good. Okay, so have a little three-way chat here. So me, you, and your opponent in the Twitch chat, which is nice. Okay, so bishop takes. So yeah, we just needed to take this off and just completely fracture the pawns. But instead we had a queen swap. But after this, you're still fine. Like, you've got the bishop pair. There's plenty of... This is your extra bishop, and it's still a very powerful piece. The issue you're going to have is partly to do with... If you've got the bishop pair, you ideally also want something to kind of help it. Like a couple of rooks or a queen. One rook doesn't tend to... Because here there are two open files, but you can only take one of them. If you could take both, then you might start to stretch black's position out a bit. But here, it's very likely you're going to play rook c8, which you did after g5, rook c8. And everything's only really happening on one side of the board, which is much easier to defend for white here. If you had a second rook on h8, for example, and let's say their other rook was... Let's say they'd castled, so it's here and here. What you'd be doing there is playing on both sides of the board and just gradually stretching these resources where the more stretched the game is, the more effect long-range pieces like bishops over knights, for example, will have. So that's the idea here, that the knights, this is the extra knight, let's say, versus this bishop. This knight wouldn't be able to defend both sides of the board at once, simply because it's not a long-range piece, but this bishop would be able to attack both sides at once. So really only one side of the board is doing things here. And yeah, I think this is another opportunity to... Now, what is an outpost, John? Talk to me about outposts.
I guess an outpost is somewhere where you can gain control of a part of the board.
Outposts are particular squares that can never be looked at by an enemy pawn again. So there aren't... The only outpost I can really see here on the board at the moment is h6 for white, where if a knight landed in there, that would be quite nice. because there's never a pawn that can be on g7. How might black be able to create an outpost for their knight here? How could you have created?
How could black do that?
How could black create an outpost here?
I suppose by attacking the e pawn.
Like what? Which square are you after?
C4.
Okay, great. So how could we make sure that a pawn can never look at c4 again?
We could.
So it's this pawn that's got to disappear, right?
So just push the d pawn.
No, because then this pawn could still come to b3 to look at c4.
Oh, right,
so we need to get rid of this pawn.
By attacking the knight.
By just taking it, yeah. If we take the knight,
Taking the knight. Yeah.
white's got to take this back, and then you see this is the same structure we had here. The idea being here that now the c4 square can never be looked at again by a pawn. So this is a lovely outpost, and minor pieces in particular are very good on outposts, because if you think about it, if you can't be attacked by a pawn, the biggest piece, the smallest piece that you can be attacked by is one of the same value. And as long as black could keep defending this knight, this square with moves like b5, a6, e6, d5, bishop moves, etc., black should never relinquish control of the square. And equally, it's very helpful to take control of outposts in front of doubled pawns, because the only way that white is going to get rid of these double pawns is by moving them forwards, really. You're not, unless you let them take, but that's unlikely. And the best way to attack weak pawns is to control the square in front of them first. That way they can't escape from the attack. So this is particularly why taking these outposts here. So knight. I'm not sure knight c4 is necessarily the best move straight away, but it looks absolutely fine to me. The idea, my point is that here white can make it so that it's a rook instead, and that's easier to attack with the knight. But you see the principle here, where we're just creating outposts, creating squares for our pieces. Bishop to e6 to c4 may also be quite a valid way of doing things. Okay, so didn't do that. We played a6, which is also fine. Preparing b5, I imagine. Good. Rook e1. Okay, the same thing is going to exist here, where we can still do this, but we're just going to ignore that. King f8, I'm not sure about. What was the idea there?
Well, I just figured that he was going to push his e pawn and then take. I don't know.
Okay, so you're worried about the e file opening.
Yeah, if you push the.
That's a reasonable worry, but how could we maybe just stop that without
just
putting
pushing
our
the
king
e
on a worse
pawn?
square?
I guess just pushing the e pawn forward to 6th rank.
If you go e6, yeah, but I think I can just do the same thing here. You haven't really changed anything, and you've blocked in your bishop.
Yeah.
So, how could we?
So in terms of what, making the rook less dangerous?
Well, no, your thing of playing e6 was absolutely right, because again, like I said before, we've got this flat pawn structure, which after e5 you could play d5, and then you've solved this issue, and the e file is completely shut. The issue here, of course, is that this bishop is in trouble.
Off. Yeah.
So, what could we do first to ensure?
Move the bishop to block the pawn.
No, I think we can just do the same thing. It complements the other idea, right?
Yeah, okay.
Where we get this square, and then is e6 that? Are we bothered about e6? We might not be that bothered about e6, but we might. But It's a mechanism by way you definitely aren't going to be having worries from the rook down this far. So I think that would have been better than King F8. Because King F8, it just doesn't do anything at the same time. While it might get rid of the issue down the E file, it doesn't have a further purpose.
Yeah.
And the king is.
I guess I was just worried it was going to smash up my pawn structure, and
yeah.
I don't know. I was a bit worried when I've not been able to castle that.
Yeah, but you should have been when the queens are off. When the queens are off, that kind of that disappears really. You shouldn't have too many issues with your pieces, with your king. Sorry, when the queens come off, unless especially they're miles away. Like it's very unlikely that anything bad is gonna happen to your king at the moment. Your king needs to be an active piece. At the moment, the quickest way out for your king is via d7 at some point. So taking it off there I think probably loses you a tempo at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Especially given white has all of these pawns, especially this pawn. Like, you're not going to get out this way. Because this pawn is just controlling these.
Yeah.
Okay. So e5 comes anyway. And, yeah. Things start to unravel a little bit here. Where I think what you really need to do...
So just have taken?
Well, I think if you're worried about your pawns being fractured, the best thing you can do is try to swap off some pieces. I think because that way there are fewer white pieces to take advantage of any holes that might appear in your position.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got one. Oops, that's not the way how pawns move.
That's not illegal. That's not a legal move, mate.
You've got
even
one,
I know that.
2 versus 1, 2, and what we can do is add a third piece, which white would then have to take off. And white can play pawn takes pawn. Now this pawn is a bit weak, but because it's just one extra piece that can't do anything in an attacking sense for white. And now you've got 2 bishops against 2 knights, which is generally decent. I think here you're in a little bit of trouble because we're still a pawn down after our earlier escapades, but I think you've got good chances here. The bishops are in decent squares for doing stuff. Yeah, this has been fun. Okay, but everything came off here, so yeah, you're still doing fine. The bishop pair is very important when pawns coming off is no bad thing for bishop pairs, because they've just got so many more lines that are free for them to roam down. But you're going to need to do something fairly soon, because otherwise white's just going to come forward and yeah, you're not going to be able to get your pawn back. So let's just go through this bit. This all looks pretty reasonable. Yeah, c4 is still a good square for that knight. That's a good move. I like that. Yeah, that's very calm. Very calm. Just take away some of. That's probably white's best piece on e5. Just got rid of. And also the idea being, presumably, that if pawn takes, you grab this, and then these pawns are just all weak. Yeah, that's good stuff. Okay, but you didn't play that. You played knight e3, which gives us an opportunity for a... Oh no, I thought we might have had a perpetual. We don't quite, do we? So if you play knight f3, rook e2 here, I was thinking we just go back and forth, but the rook can come here and attack the bishop. Okay, so what did you play? You played...
I think I went the other way.
You went the other way.
No, because I was thinking that I can get my bishop onto b2.
What's going to support it? The knight?
The knight.
From a4?
I went...
So you're coming this way?
Oh, yeah, did I? I would, like, looking at it now, I would have just probably have gone for b4 and then attacked that pawn.
But you can't go to. What do you mean b4? That's b4.
Sorry, c4.
c4. Yeah, but the c4 is being covered. So.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, that's why I didn't do it.
So
Yeah,
I think
obviously.
A4 is the better idea.
Okay.
The knight can come round one of these ways to get there. But yeah, I prefer knight f3 because it's just coming forward. Also, knight f3 just cuts off the king a little bit. It means that white can't get too hairy now, and you can start to sort of threaten rook e, that kind of thing. And then we'd have a nice little mate. But knight d7, yeah, it's going the wrong direction because it's taking 3 moves to do something positive with the knight when you could have just done it in 1.
Yeah, right,
really.
yeah.
But if your plan is to get to a4, then that's also a very reasonable plan to start looking at this weak pawn on b2.
I think one of my problems is that I get into my head like ideas and I sort of go through with them even when after every move you should just reassess and think, right, what's the best move for this moment?
No, I actually disagree with that. Because to a point, because if you've got a plan, and if the plan's good and white hasn't played anything that particularly messes with it, obviously you look at your opponent's move and you look at their ideas. But if there's nothing too forcing for them, and assuming your plan was initially okay, then there's no reason not to go through with it. I agree that you should be thinking of every move, but in terms of the keeping control, you shouldn't necessarily be trying to change your plan every time.
Okay.
It's the trick is finding a decent plan in the first place, right?
Yeah,
Because
right.
then otherwise you're going to have problems where you're just going down completely the wrong track. But I'm always encouraging students to just kind of stick with it to a point, and then react as and when. Yeah, so this move is good, I think, because it just takes away any possibility of you ever getting a knight to c4, and it's starting to, because white's got this little overlap here, 3v2. White's really now preparing for an endgame where the majority they've got on the queen side might translate into a passed pawn, and that passed pawn might cause you a lot of problems. The problem with your opponent having passed pawns is that swapping pieces doesn't really make sense, because what you're just doing is really helping them to simplify the position so that passed pawn can become the main focus. So yeah, you need to make the most of what your pieces have here, and that's okay. Now that's an interesting idea. b4 here. What is the best? Okay, so b4 does fix these pawns. You're not going to have 2 passed pawns coming down the board at you, which is helpful. When I say fix, I mean that if white tries to go after this one, then we can probably just play b3, and then suddenly there's no way that these pawns are ever going to get past these 2. However, b4 does allow this pawn to now become a passed pawn. And there's no line of defense beyond the c4, the 4th rank here. So this pawn can just run and run. I may have preferred to take this when, let's say, knight takes. It's still 2v1, but these pawns are miles away. So you've just got a bit more time to do other stuff before white can force a passed pawn like this. But at the same time, it does kind of isolate this passed pawn a little bit, and you've still got 4 pieces in close proximity that could go after it, maybe. Who knows? But yeah, knight d5 is definitely a very good move here for white. Just plonk it in there. And it's a fork. So we've got some problems. So a5. Knight takes e7. I think that was the wrong way to go with the rook. You might as well just take the open d file. Oops, not that one.
Yeah.
The open d file while it's while it's available.
Yeah.
Just a little thing. And yeah, white's now coming after you. Just so much space. I mean, let's look at all the squares that these pawns occupy in your half of the board.
Yeah.
Millions. And actually, yeah, this rook isn't ever going to be looking at b2. Because I said because you fixed these pawns with this move, you've also fixed your pawns, and there's no way that you're going to be able to open up a file here. It's not going to be possible. Because again, white has this flat pawn structure, which if you go after with moves like a4, b3, white can just play a3. If you go a4, a3, white can just play b3. And everything's fixed. And there's no b file going to be opened today. Right, but we went for it. And yeah, white just closed all of that down. So now white's got one pass pawn here, and the second one is imminent, I imagine. But we've still got pieces. We can still, and white's king is not remotely safe. So if the white rook gets a bit airy-fairy, we could maybe try to do things on the back rank. Wow, hold on. Feel like we missed an opportunity here.
Well, the fact that he's hanging is...
Well, the rook has just come up, hasn't it? So, and also the square it's come to allows a potential knight fork. Where it's not just a knight fork of the rook and the king, there's also the bishop to worry about. And yeah, he hasn't responded to this move at all, because the whole point is that you're looking at this knight. So rook e4, can we just play knight f3? And we've got this attack, and we've got this threat of everything. Everything falls off, doesn't it? So white has to take the bishop, I think, to guard d2 and try to get some material back. Here, and then... My goodness, this is a very technical endgame. Knight, bishop and 5 against rook, knight and 3. f6? Maybe? I imagine this is drawn, but I think black has very good chances to gobble this pawn and then start doing things on the first rank.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a missed opportunity. Just, yeah, white didn't take heed of this move, which just simply threatens a piece.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're threatening it already, but it adds double weight to it. So here, white just needs to run away.
So I should have taken...
Oops. Let's find it again. Where are we? We are...
Round move 30.
Here. So, yeah, instead of rook d7, knight d5 would have been... Rook e4, knight b5 would have been better. Yeah, knight f3 just... Double threat. Bad news for...
I'm really bad with knights.
They're tricky. I think in this kind of... I mean, knights I think are much easier to play with when the position is cramped. But knights in an open board can also be incredibly dangerous because you think you've got one...
I always miss forks.
Yeah. I mean, just...
Both ways.
the calling card here is that all of these pieces are on the same square. Same colour square.
Okay.
So it's very doable. It's very possible that there's going to be some fork somewhere. Just because the knight is always going to be looking at one colour at the same time. You can only look from a light square onto a dark square. Yeah, okay, right. Either way, rook d7, understandable, but yeah, misses the point. c6, and this pawn is starting to motor, isn't it? I think we probably just had to take this and suck it up. But you're in... What do we do here? We've got to move this bishop. This is awful. Yeah, we can't really have this.
But then he is hanging his king a bit. with the rook
all right,
on that
so
line. So if you move the bishop,
let's move the bishop and then what? So we've got this square with threatening mate.
yeah, I guess you can just
Bishop
push his
E2.
bishop. Yeah, it's one of those things, I guess, where you just hope that
Well, we've got this move.
they don't notice.
We've
Yeah,
got things happening here. I suppose white can block it. It's not over, but it's... The fat lady's warming up. White just needs to be very careful. But yeah, rook d6 just looks absolutely horrible, because how are you stopping this pawn?
yeah,
So this goes back to when you played b4, really. You just, by giving them the passed pawn,
yeah.
that certainly hastened the end, because you didn't really give yourself a chance to just make white work for it. So if you take the pawn instead, then yeah, these two pawns versus one, white's still got this overlap, but it's going to take a little while for them to get to a point where these pawns can... I mean, for a start, it just takes one, two... It's 3 moves to even force the passed pawn in the first place, which gives you 3 moves to do something else or to prepare against it. Because these guys aren't too clever. But yeah, after b4, I think that's when it started to really fall apart a little bit. But apart from that, I don't think you played badly at all, considering you were conceding, what, 650 racing points. That's that's not bad at all. The opening was I think the opening was a success to a point. Try not to get too surgically attached to your dragon bishop. So we had this situation where, because white doesn't have their dark squared bishop, that can mean one of two things. It means that this guy isn't so important anymore because it's disposable, because you're not going to leave dark squared holes anywhere for the enemy dark squared bishop to take advantage of. But it can also mean that this piece just becomes a monster because it's unopposed. Don't get too attached to the latter of those, where you're just going, right, I need to do things on the dark squares.
Yeah.
Here, this bishop can have a very good function of just getting rid of itself, and suddenly all of these pawns are absolute garbage.
Yeah.
That was it. So those are the 2 moments, really. Just don't voluntarily give your opponent passed pawns, and don't get too attached to your dragon bishop. I'd say those are the 2 main takeaways here. And also, yeah, the other one was at the end. Just look out for when you just have a knight or 2 knights on the board. Just look out for when pieces are on the same colour square as the king, or as the queen, because knight forks are on in that spot. Right, happy with that?
Yeah, no, thank you.
Okay.
Lots to think about.
Lovely. So if you're watching and you enjoyed this little analysis, I do offer online lessons, as does Chris Russell, who is also on the podcast, and we've obviously had to move everything online, but get in touch with us via Twitter in the first instance, which is Chess Pit Pod. Right, should we go and have lunch, John?
Think so.
Let's do that. Right, I've been Phil Makepeace. This has been John Mackenzie. This is the Chess Pit Podcast. Listen to us on Apple, Google, Spotify, iVox, and all sorts of other podcast platforms. And we'll see you again soon.